a lot of the people you meet, assuming that you're, a North American with a North American companion, a lot of stuff will just slide. They'll just pass it off as ignorance. But I remember one of my zones, there was a missionary who was from Argentina, and he wanted to make sure that Americans didn't do anything, kind of silly. So one thing I didn't even think about, it wasn't even until like a year in my mission that I realized that it could even potentially be offensive, is pointing at things with your finger or pointing at a person. Because here it's like, hey, could you pass that to me? And that seems like a totally normal thing, but apparently if you point at a person in Argentina with your index finger, it's like really impolite. So that was a big thing that afterward I was always really conscious to, either point with like my whole hand or just be really sensitive about that. But yeah, the people were really understanding, really forgiving. So if I made anything that was kind of embarrassing, it was just passable, because they're like, oh, you don't know any better. One thing that was kind of hard for me is I've always liked to joke with people. And my preferred method of joking is sarcasm, which doesn't translate very well. And I'm not sure if it's just a Spanish or if it's specific to Argentine culture. But I would, say something the opposite of what something was, and they would say that I was lying. And I'd be like, oh no, it's just a joke. And they're like, no, that's a lie. And it was funny because I was just doing it lightheartedly, and they'd say, no, Elder, you're lying. And it was hard for me to make that transition, just because obviously as a representative of Jesus Christ, you don't want to come across as somebody who lies. So maybe I had to change my style of humor. Argentine humor is very different than American humor. Like the funniest possible thing in Argentina would be like if somebody's pants fall down and they're wearing like underwear with like hearts on it. Like that's the kind of humor that they just love. So that was one thing that was a kind of an adjustment for me. And then, another thing, whenever you're leaving, so you're like, let's say you're here in the States and you're at a group of people talking, and there's 3 or 4 people and you just want to leave, you just kind of do. Maybe you say, excuse me, maybe you don't, maybe you just kind of sneak away because everyone else's focus is somewhere else. But if you walk away from a person in Argentina without saying permiso, or like, excuse me, like I'm going to leave, that's really, really bad etiquette. And I definitely made a few people mad on accident that way, because it's just polite there. It's just something you do. But other than that, I think those are pretty much the big things that I really had to deal with. So Argentina, especially the north where Resistencia is like, it's right next to Brazil. And that's where the big Carnival thing happens at the beginning of every year. And that's something that, it's basically just a wild party. Lots of alcohol, lots of making a mess, parades of scantily clad women, things like that. So when people were to get baptized and make a change in their life, that was usually the first thing to go, was Carnival. And then pretty much every holiday is based around drinking there, which I'm not sure how different that is from the States. But Christmas, Easter, everything was about, just kind of getting together and being with family, which for a lot of people entailed drinking. I remember we were walking on, Easter weekend. We were just walking around and we saw a bunch of kids playing like dice, like gambling. And I asked my companion, he was like, yeah, it's apparently to commemorate the Roman soldiers. So I was like, don't they know that's who, crucified Jesus? So I didn't think it was a really good celebration of Easter, but there are definitely different traditions. Since Christmas and New Year's are in the summer months, it's basically what you imagine for like the 4th of July. It's like a big barbecue, big party. There's no tree, there's not as much gift giving going on. But it's just basically a time for family to get together and to have a big barbecue. There's always really good meat to be had. But yeah, those are the big ones. Another thing is the Argentine government will have what they call feriados, pretty much like once or twice a month, and that's just a day where no one has work. And it's, Flag Day, Day of the Friends, Mother's Day, Father's Day. It's just any excuse really to just take a day off, which was great for proselyting. We'd always be more excited to find people on Sundays, Mondays, and holidays, because that's when we knew the family would be together at home.